we're on a mission to demystify the science that shapes our lives and to unpack how great ideas built here in Scotland become real-world medicines, devices, and new companies at the cutting edge of life sciences.
And because, Ross, we share a passion for golf as well as science, we know progress is a game of patience. So no hype, just the long game.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ross Kagan, Regis Professor of Precision Medicine at University of Glasgow.
And I'm Sandy Weir, Tech Innovation Leader and Strategic Program Manager, joining from Edinburgh.
Sandy, it's lovely to see you.
It's
Welcome.
Nice to see you again, Ross. We had a great time last episode with Andrew. It's nice to reconnect, and I think we're going to carry on that discussion today, right?
Yes. Andrew's always a lot of fun. He's a smart dude, so it was great to hear from him as well. But today, we're going to talk about cancer. I guess it's better than death, didn't we? We had an episode on how we die.
We did.
So I guess it's a half step up, maybe.
Yeah, and you can't quite lord over me like you both did last time.
Oh,
kind of it was a bit more balanced now. Although this is your specialist area.
It is. We'll get
into that.
We'll get into that. So for the last few episodes, as you know, we've thrown around a lot of heavy terms: precision medicine, oncology, the $25 billion Scottish life sciences target. But we realized something. We're really talking about the business of disease, but we're not actually explaining what the product is. So today we start with cancer.
Yeah, that's right, Ross. And if you're going to build an industry around solving a problem, you really need to understand the mechanics of that problem in a lot of detail. And today we're going to do a Cancer 101. It's time to step back, review the basics of cancer, how it forms, the differences between tumor types and other fundamentals. And Ross, you're the professor of precision medicine at Regis Professor of Precision Medicine at University of Glasgow. I shouldn't forget that part. And you spend a lot of your professional life looking at this disease in a lot of detail. And today, I guess I'm the pupil, I'm the student, but I will be dragging the conversation back to the economics whenever I get a chance, and whenever you get too deep into the petri dish.
I like the word student because whenever you're talking about the business part, I'm like, I have no idea. Yes. Yeah, sounds good. Well, it's not true that you don't know the science either, so we can prop each other up. So today I'm going to explain exactly why a cell goes rogue, why we haven't cured it yet, which I get this question all the time. Why isn't this cured? To be honest, I kind of have that question myself. And share some surprising secrets about how we're testing new drugs in my own lab using human models, as well as an insect which, hopefully after this episode, you'll treat with new respect. So, Sandy, you know what time it is. Put down your sausage roll. Let's do cancer.
Yeah, so let's get started, Ross. So maybe let's go back to the most basic level. And could you help explain cancer to someone with zero scientific background? What actually happens in the body?
Sure, of course. The simplest way to think about it is that cancer is a miscommunication and the cells become immortalized. So your body's made of trillions of cells, literally, and they're usually very obedient. They grow, they divide. That's how we get bigger. That's how we turn over our cells. So it's really important that they constantly divide. And when they get old or damaged, they very politely bail out and commit suicide, what we call in the field apoptosis, which my lab studied for a while. But the key is that it's a very highly regulated process. You have all sorts of proteins keeping an eye on things and making sure that things go well. The problem is when that system breaks down. So cancer happens when genes that normally act as the brakes that says, okay, stop dividing, or the accelerators, all right, we need to repair this, let's make some more. When those get broken, that's a problem. And generally, when I say broken, that means when your DNA gets a mistake in it.
Yeah, got it. So the accelerator kind of gets stuck to the floor.
Yeah, exactly. The cell refuses to die and just keeps multiplying, making more and more of itself. And so the lump gets bigger, forms a tumor, lump. And actually, the tumor has got a couple of problems. First of all, it's basically an unauthorized, complicated, and evil construction project that's basically pulling resources from your healthy tissues. And this is why you can, a lot of times when people have cancer, you can kind of see it. They look cachectic, which means they get thinner. They don't process their own food very well, and part of that is because the tumor has is grabbing those nutrients. And the other problem is when cells leave that mothership and go to other parts of the body, that's where you really get in trouble, and that's what we call metastasis. Okay. And you can cut out the primary. To be honest, if you get a lump in your breast or your prostate, that's not going to kill you. It's when those cells leave that area, head to other parts of your body and start to spread through, that's when it gets to be a problem. That's when the surgery, which is still the major form of treatment for cancer, that's where that really falls down.
Yeah, why is it so hard to kill? We've had so many advancements in medical science. We can cure diseases like polio. Why is there no single cure for cancer? What's stopping us, Ross?
Well, actually, we can kill it. The problem is, grenades, strychnine, they work great. But the trick here is to kill it and keep us alive. And this is the problem because the tumor comes from our body. It looks basically a lot like the other cells in your body with just subtle differences. Maybe you just change a few genes, a few changes in your DNA. But overall, it's a cell from your body. This is why sometimes it escapes your own natural proofreading in your body because it looks too much like all the other cells in your body. So the trick is always to kill the cancer while keeping us alive. And this is why cancer treatments are so famously toxic. You have to run that edge. There's another problem, and I have to say, I should back up. So I started as a developmental biologist, and when we stepped into cancer, we actually helped identify a drug that was eventually used for a particular thyroid cancer. So I thought, cancer, how hard could that be, right? So I was a developmental biologist studying how our bodies develop and so on, and I thought, let's go into cancer, and these guys just can't seem to figure it out, so we'll just have to do it for them. So it turns out cancer is actually pretty complicated. It's really annoying, mainly because it's not one disease. It's hundreds of diseases, which we just put a banner over and call them cancer. And that's where things get really complex. So I can go on this rant for a while, but let's bring it back to industry. So for decades, the pharmaceutical industry is looking for what we called the magic bullet. I'm sure you remember all of this, right? Targeted therapy, you have one drug that hits one protein. When that protein goes rogue, you hit it with this drug and good to go. But that's not how cancer works, okay? It's a complicated thing. I think of it as a complicated network. If you push over here on one part of the network just adapts to it. And that's because a typical tumor doesn't change one protein, mutation in one protein. It can have 10, 15, even 100 different proteins have mutations in them that change them. And so then it's not, you can't really think of it as a network with a little ding in it. You have to think of it as a network that has now moved to a completely different area. And when you just aim that magic bullet, you generally miss it, or, and this is what gets really annoying, that network will adapt. So the tumor adapts to the drug pretty quickly. So we all know about how a patient gets a cancer drug, the tumor goes down, and then it comes back. And that's what we're talking about. It's the tumor basically just adapting to it. So it's a multi-hit disease. And basically I've spent my cancer career advocating for a more complex solution to this complex problem.
Yeah, I guess it's squeezing a balloon, isn't it? It pops up somewhere else, and so the drug that you're trying to apply that can successfully block just one pathway, but unfortunately the cancer finds a way to reroute itself. That's kind of what's happening, Ross?
Yeah, pretty much. It mutates, it becomes resistant, and what happens is we end up playing what I call whack-a-mole. Although I like your balloon analogy. You hit it in one place, and we're good at this. We're really good. These drugs are pretty potent, and it just pops up in a different way. And the problem with cancer is if you kill 99% of the cells in the tumor, that's not good enough. If you have one left, it's a problem. So again, that's why I like the idea of hitting it from many angles simultaneously, thinking about complexity. Also, the body, the tumor, annoyingly, takes over your body processes and reroutes them to help it grow. So there's a lot of effort to try to get the body to stop helping it, which can also slow it down. And I think all of this is to say, and I think this will bring us back to our topic. So I'm actually a chief scientific officer, CSO for an accelerator fund, P4. And I see a lot of cancer, small cancer startups, as well as pharma, as part of that, and also just generally here in my capacity as a cancer researcher. And I'm immediately suspicious of any company that's built on a single target or a single theory about cancer. And I would say the majority of little companies that I see are exactly this. We have an idea. We can hit this thing. I swear that it's going to make the tumor go away. I got to see that. It occasionally works. There's a few examples. Aromatase inhibitors for breast cancer that hit hormones and drop them down. That actually does work. But overall, those things don't tend to work. And I think personally, I like hitting the tumor with drug cocktails. And this is, I think, becoming a thing. Call it polypharmacology. Hits multiple vulnerabilities at once. And you might say, well, why haven't we been doing this for forever? And the answer is, chemistry-wise, that is really difficult to figure out how to come up with one drug that hits many targets in a way that you control. So chemists have really controlled that decision about what to go after. And I think now the biologists are starting to step in and say, okay, enough of that. We really need to think about this in a more sophisticated way.
Yeah. Got it. And because we've talked about this a lot, Ross, and I know that you've told me about the really surprising way that you've been involved in testing these drug cocktails. And I know that your lab uses techniques around this area, and it just blows my mind every time we talk about it. So please tell us a bit more about that.
Wait, talk about my lab's work? Of course, I'd love to do that. Every scientist, we live for these moments. Come on. I think my lab has a reputation for doing things a little bit outside the box. And one of those outside the boxes that we use, it was one of our main tools. We use fruit flies called Drosophila. Some of you may vaguely remember that from high school when you were doing white eyes versus red eyes. So we're a little more sophisticated than that, but that's the basic idea. As humans, we share about 70% of our DNA with fruit flies. What's especially closely matched is the things that drive cancer, because these are really fundamental to the biology of cells, and so they tend to be shared across animals. And when a patient comes in, so we did a clinical trial back in New York, and we're trying to push it forward here. When a patient comes in the door, we use the sequence of their tumor to create for each patient what we call a personalized fly avatar. So that fly line is that patient. If that patient has 10, 15 different genes mutated, we'll mutate the equivalent of them in the fly. And that fly, let's say we're talking about a colon tumor, we'll target it to the fly gut. The fly will get a colon tumor, generally very aggressive, will metastasize around the fly. The fly will respond to drugs that we do and so on. But now when we have a really complicated fly, they tend not to respond to these very clean drugs like we talked about. This is what's gotten me on this soapbox. And so we actually grow up for a typical patient about 400,000 of those flies, all identical. This is why you can only do it in flies. And we use robotics to, in a vial or in a well, we put food into it in automated fashion. We put a different drug or drug cocktail into each one. We put flies into there. They hatch out. They eat the food. They eat the drug. And we basically do an automated screen of thousands and thousands of drug combinations to try to find which combination is best for that patient. And then if it looks good, we treat them.
Totally blows me away what you're doing here. And it's just the idea that you give a fruit fly the exact same cancer profile as a patient in Glasgow. It's just incredible.
Oh, thank you. And I should say, that there is a company built on this that basically spun out of this clinical trial, Vivan, run by CEO Laura Tower, which hopefully we'll get on the show sometime. She's amazing. I'm her biggest fan. I should also say by disclosure that I do have a financial interest in Vivan. But in general, the idea here is no cheating, right? These are complex problems, and there's no cheating anymore. We basically put the patient has 15 mutations in him, the fly has 15. If the patient is diabetic, we feed the fly a high sugar diet, and the fly becomes diabetic, which actually changes the tumor. If the patient is, votes for labor, then all this, everything goes in.
Yeah, no, it really is just amazing. But when I think about this as with my tech and my business guy hat on, I'm really listening to this and I'm thinking the level of biological complexity that really does challenge and essentially shatter the traditional pharmaceutical business model, doesn't it, Ross?
Yeah, and actually, that's actually a great pivot. And this is something I really am curious to hear your thoughts on this, because this sheer chaos of cancer biology, how does that affect the Scottish biotech ecosystem?
Well, I guess when we look at take a little bit of a step back and have a look at the economics of drug development, and I suppose when we look at the 20th century pharma model, there was the concept of the blockbuster drug.
Yeah.
Pharma companies spent billions developing one drug. So say $2 billion to develop a drug that you could sell to 10 million people that have a particular disease, let's say lung cancer in this case. So your fruit flies and your fruit fly experiments, and the work, the serious work, of course, that you've just described, you've proven that those 10 million people, they have 10 million different genetic diseases. So it's incredibly more complex than we understood certainly 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, no, I think I get your point, which is the problem with precision medicine getting away from that model is that you start to shrink the customer base for any particular drug.
Exactly. You're developing a drug that might be suitable for a few thousand people, but who share a specific genetic profile, but it's not suitable for the masses. So there's huge commercial risk, and the economics of getting it right start to become very, very difficult, and it's a very tricky problem. So you just look at the numbers. If you look at premature cancer deaths in Scotland, we know that we lose something around 30,000 productive years of life, and this is just in Scotland. We're just looking at this from a Scottish lens, and that has an economic impact here of something around £900 million. Staggering numbers.
Wow, I would imagine that's a pretty big drain on the economy. But I guess point of our conversation, on the flip side, the research fighting it can be a big economic driver. And in fact, you and I have been very devoted to this idea. In fact, a recent report showed that patient-centered cancer research here in Glasgow alone, I think this is my favorite data for this week, is worth £500 million to the UK economy per year just from what's happening here in Glasgow. And put it in currency that the Scots, such as myself, can understand, that's a lot of sausage rolls.
Yeah, it really is. But it's also a fantastic opportunity for Scottish biotech. So the businesses that we think are succeeding here, and certainly in 2026, they're trying to build. They're not trying to build out on that old magic bullet approach. They're trying to build platforms that really are able to handle that complexity that we're describing today. So if you take my own area, radiological imaging, we're using AI today that can analyze images so we can find tumors at the very earliest stage 1, before they start to accumulate those 15 or so mutations that eventually become invincible in terms of us being able to treat that tumor.
Sure. And we also see it in spin-outs, right? Look at Steve Pollard's Trojanex, which spun out of University of Edinburgh and actually recently raised £70 million. I love their approach. So Trojanex, Steve, they're not going after a single gene. They use what they call synthetic super enhancers, which actually we should probably get Steve on the podcast at some point, because I think it's actually a really interesting and very novel approach. And these super enhancers, so basically what a synthetic super enhancer is, it controls a region of your DNA, so it decides which genes in the region are going to be expressed. And so it targets the overall identity and state of these aggressive cancer cells. So it's not, I see gene, hit gene. It is, hey, this region is a problem. Let's go after that and see if we can reroute that network into a space that the tumor doesn't like. And by doing that, you start to, you can actually get your immune system, which should be clearing all this stuff out anyway. You can basically ramp that up now to fight the tumor complexity.
Yeah, indeed, and I guess the other person that we've kind of mentioned in this space that is really exciting, and again we hope to bring him onto this podcast is Lee Cronin and the work that he's doing in Chemify and Maryhill in Glasgow. If you're going to need complex drug cocktails for your fly avatars, Ross, you need a faster way to be able to make them, to synthesize them. Chemify's computation platform is literally digitizing the chemistry around printing novel molecules on demand. It's incredible.
Yeah, I agree. Incidentally, my team collaborates with Lee's. I absolutely love working with Lee. He is a truly innovative thinker. And this is also me being super nice to make sure Lee comes onto our podcast, which he has promised. And these tools allow us to not target the tumor, but really think of the ecosystem, the whole body. So the biology of cancer is complicated. And so the Scottish business response has to be equally sophisticated. This is what's coming in the future. So I think this is maybe for me the punchline for this, which is cancer is challenging, but that's a business opportunity. And that business opportunity, if we fill it properly, can help a lot of people. So AI diagnostics, automated chemistry, highly targeted immunotherapies, all of these things are going to be next generation. And those that really embrace and understand the biology of cancer, I think will be the winners in this race.
Yeah, I totally agree. So may I summarize, Ross, our discussion today? I think the key takeaways that we're proposing for any bio-entrepreneur listening here today: don't build a company that assumes cancer is simple. Build a company that really is prepared to embrace that chaos. Find ways to decipher that complexity, because it's messy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is the future, being able to deal with that complexity.
Yeah, completely.
And Ross, I'd like to close off this part with a book recommendation. I was really inspired by the book The Emperor of All Maladies. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning biography of cancer by Siddhartha Mukherjee. In my view, it expertly chronicles the history, the science, and I guess what's been a real sort of human struggle against this complex disease, cancer. In fact, Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee, I think he's an amazing author. He's an incredible speaker. If you've not heard of him, and I know you have, Ross, go check him out if you're interested. In fact, there's also a great documentary by, I'm a big fanboy of Ken Burns. I think his documentaries on PBS are excellent. Go and check out. There's a 3-part documentary all about this book. What do you think, Ross? Another future podcast guest? We'll know we've made it big if we can ever make that happen.
Well, I'm going to name drop. I do know Sid. See, call him Sid, like we're buddies. Okay. We're not buddies, but he's part of the New York cancer community. So am I. We've interacted. In fact, we even had a conversation through one of his companies about maybe doing some work together. I have to say, he's really, really a lovely guy. And Sid, if you're listening, please come on our podcast. We love you. He's actually really smart, and he's a great guy. So that's my name drop for the day. I guess embrace the chaos would be our summary for both oncology, and sort of models startup life. So, let's wrap up with our positive control of the week. It's my favorite part of the week. It's time for a wee bit of joy. All right, Sandy, what's unblocking the path for you this week to joy?
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Ross. Yeah, and I always look forward to this part as well. You can probably tell by the bags under my eyes this week that I've been burning the candle at both ends.
I know.
I had a great week. On Wednesday, I attended the Health Innovation Hub in Govan. That's our new building built as part of the Living Lab program that we've both been really connected strongly with. And we had an amazing panel session. We had Johnny Gulhuli, Dave Hughes, Maria Sergio Sanchez, and our fantastic chair, Jackie Young from Roche, ABHI. And these are some amazing guys. They've got incredible stories about their journey as bio-entrepreneurs, as medtech evangelists, and we definitely need to bring these guys onto the podcast, Ross. I can't wait to introduce them to you, and we'll definitely have some useful conversations in the near future. And then on sorry, this is a bit of a rant. I'm off on one, but
it's all
on
good.
Thursday evening,
it's all good.
I was really lucky to attend the Scottish Knowledge Exchange Awards at the University of Stirling. It was breathtaking to see all of the nominations. There's some fantastic work, as we know, going on across the country. Real deep collaborative work. And we were nominated as part of our radiogenomics team. So that's University of Glasgow, NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, and my own company, Canon Medical Research, coming together as part of the Living Lab. Unfortunately, although we've got a great project, great story, we weren't successful. Great competition, but it was lovely to see the Living Lab program actually get recognised as the place-based impact category. And yeah, big round of applause, and it was lovely to see Ruth McLaughlin go up and collect the award. So super. And don't worry, I'm not going to go through my entire calendar today, but I just wanted to leave with one other wee thing. And another one of my passions, as well as golf, as well as the science and what we talk about in this podcast. I like a wee dram every now and again, a wee dram of whiskey. And at the weekend, I did indulge. With a couple of my buddies, we went along to the Independent Bottlers whiskey tasting at Leith Theatre. It's a great event. It's kind of small, but it's there's some really interesting attendees. There's some fantastic films about the process, the history, the countryside. I really enjoyed it. There's some great whiskies that you can sample at this event. Really flavoursome, but the other thing is, it's an incredible entrepreneur spirit, and a lot of these guys are bootstrapping their own companies. They've got fascinating stories. There's lots of tradition in terms of the heritage, barley, the ancient processes, but they're bringing new twists. I actually bought a bottle that has been matured in Colombian oak casks.
All right.
So I'm looking forward to getting into that bottle, and yeah, delicious flavor profiles. I was in heaven.
I have come to really appreciate Scottish whiskey. I have to say, I've got actual sunshine hitting me I didn't expect that because we're in Scotland. Also, I should probably point out, not whiskey, just water. But I have come to really appreciate Scottish whiskey. So
that's great. Well,
jealous.
You've got to join me next year, because they're gonna have another event next year, and honestly, you will not be disappointed.
Dude, you got to invite me.
Fantastic day.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Ross,
all in.
What has been lighting you up this week? Please bring us your wee bit of joy.
Absolutely. So this weekend, celebrating my wife's birthday, we spent almost 3 days hiking through the Cairngorms, which is a stunning mountain range. Like I said, we spent almost 3 days with my wife and also our dog. And I love the Cairngorms. I had spent some time there, but this is really first time I really got to walk through a lot of it over several days. Big sky, cold air, open land. And of course, my real joy is just moving through it with my wife, yakking about everything and about nothing, just being with each other. But that's actually not what I want to talk about. We did bring our dog, Siobhan. I'm learning my accent. And I have to say, watching an American bulldog run through the Highlands is like watching straight happiness with no editorial control, just straight out joy. She's not having a meaningful weekend. She's not, going through her to-do list. It's just the sheer joy of her bouncing her big muscular body through the moss. She sounded like a horse almost. She's basically the most inefficient way to walk a mountain. She nailed every mud pit. She chewed on every stick, and actually didn't even need a leash. I just held onto a stick and dragged her up the mountain, and she would not let go. And still not entirely sure what she was eating. When she was eating something when we made it up to Prince Albert's Cairn near the Balmoral Castle, getting that out of her was, this just brought me a lot of joy. Basically, it was awesome.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So, which brings us to the end of Cancer 101. If you want to learn more about how we use fruit flies to fight tumors, you can look up the work we do at University of Glasgow, or just, drop me a note. Sandy, as always, lovely to yak with you again.
Yeah, definitely, Ross, and with you too. And next week, we are diving into the world of health data. We were considering, is Scotland's patient data the new oil? Who gets to drill for it? Who owns it? Join us then, and we'll have another fascinating discussion, I hope, on the long game. Thank you very much.
Yeah, see the vision clear. We're here to run the long game. Blueprint set, no fear. Playing out the long game, the long game.